approach to community support. I would like to recognize and thank the current leadership team, including President John Adefa and board members Hector Addison, Shahada Alolo, Valerie Usoy, Serge Banyojan, Franklin Ipape, Catherine Kizotto, Doris Nigha, and Godlove Ingfusi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
For over 2 weeks, millions of litres of raw sewage ran unimpeded from Winnipeg into the North Red River and Lake Winnipeg, and this Liberal government was missing in action. The sewage is polluting our iconic Lake Winnipeg, which is home to Manitoba's thriving inland commercial fishery, beautiful beaches, and is a source of drinking water for many communities. These Liberals failed to support the province and the City of Winnipeg to mitigate this environmental catastrophe. Canada's Conservatives have long fought to keep our waterways, lakes, and oceans free from untreated sewage. As government, we brought in stringent guidelines for municipal effluent, and in opposition, we brought forward a bill to prohibit the discharge of raw sewage into our waterways by municipalities. Meanwhile, within days of forming government, this Prime Minister approved a dump of 8 billion litres of raw sewage to be discharged by the City of Montreal into the St. Lawrence River. It is disappointing to see the lack of urgency demonstrated by Liberal MPs in Winnipeg to this prolonged spill of untreated sewage. This is unacceptable. The Liberal government must stand up now to protect the Red River and Lake Winnipeg from future breaches.
The honourable member from Surrey Centre.
Happy Black History Month, Mr. Speaker. This February, Canadians across the nation have joined together to celebrate Black Canadians and their countless contributions to Canadian society. In my riding of Surrey Centre, there are several Black-led organizations that focus on fostering a safe, inclusive, and equitable community. Just last week, the Minister of Small Business and I met with the Black Business Association of BC to discuss ways to grow their entrepreneurial and enterprising spirits. Others, like Solid State Community Society, will be bringing Black youth together to discuss anti-Black racism in high schools and examine possible solutions. Nuru Training Association has a long-standing roots in Surrey Centre. This month, their organization is creating opportunities for our community to learn about their history and contributions of Black Canadians. There are so many incredible organizations like these in Surrey Centre, including the Kingdom Dak Foundation, Zamoja, Great Life Healing Community Services, and the African Women's Empowerment Society. Services like these continue to show Canadians that diversity is our...
The honourable member for Salaberry-Surwa. I have the great pleasure today to celebrate 150 years of history for the city of Salaberry de Valleyfield. 150 years of Campo Valencian pride. That means, first and foremost, generations of citizens who've enjoyed the shores of Bay Saint-François, the people who hold the secret to our famous grilling spice, and the hardworking people who never miss an opportunity to celebrate. Salaberry de Valleyfield is also 150 years of solidarity, inherited from the workers at Montreal Cotton, the Sisters of Bon Conseil, and all the others. The 150th is an opportunity to remember that life is really good on our island. I'd like to thank the organizing committee who've prepared an incredible program full of activities to honor our city and its talents. It's co-chaired by Denis Lapointe and René Demers. I'd also like to thank all municipal employees who've contributed. This year we'll be eating, discovering, playing, dancing, and celebrating Salaberry de Valleyfield. Dear Campies, have a great sesquicentennial.
The honourable member from Markham-Stouffville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Yi Hong Centre for Geriatric Care provides high-quality and culturally appropriate services to enable seniors of different backgrounds and needs to live their lives to the fullest. Recently, a very special person, the former CEO of Yi Hong, Florence Wong, passed away. Arriving in Canada in 1987 from Hong Kong, she discovered her executive experience wasn't valued here, but that didn't deter her. Hired by Yi Hong in 1994, Florence led the expansion from one site to a network of long-term care centres and support services across the GTA, including one in my riding of Markham-Stouffville. I sat on their board for a number of years and feel part of the Yi Hong extended family. As Yi Hong's founder, Dr. Joseph Wong, said, her impact on the senior care sector was unmatched. I was always impressed by her hard work, resilience, and positive attitude. Sincere condolences to her family and all her many friends. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
After 8 long long years of this Prime Minister, everything feels broken and Canadians are struggling. Rent is up, housing costs have doubled, resulting in the rise of tent cities, and crime runs rampant on streets across the country. This Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the chaos, and there is no end in sight. Just last week, the leader of the NDP signed on to prop up the Liberals for another 16 months. While the NDP Liberal coalition continues to thrive, Canadians are struggling to survive. New scandals continue to break about government spending and Liberal insiders getting rich. Glaring mismanagement, gross waste of taxpayers' money, reprisals and cover-ups all speak to corruption. The buck stops with this Liberal Prime Minister. He is not worth the cost of the corruption. It's time for him to be held accountable to Canadians.
The honourable member from Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize the coldest night of the year events that happened in 190 communities across Canada on Saturday. Each year, thousands of Canadians walk in February to support local charities that serve people experiencing hurt, hunger, and homelessness. My family, my constituency team, and friends walked together to raise money for Lion Hearts in Kingston this year. It was truly heartwarming to see over 150 walkers, 30 teams, hundreds of donors, and dozens of volunteers contribute locally. Thanks to the collective efforts, over $70,000 was raised to date, and that number continues to grow. A huge shout out to the team at Lion Hearts for their outstanding work in what they do, in partnership with other organizations to support the most vulnerable in our community. And congratulations to all participants for stepping outside of the warmth and comfort of their homes to help charities that serve our communities with compassion every single day. Thank you.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 8 years of this government, the Bloc Liberal coalition is costing Quebecers a lot of money. They're working in cahoots with this government, which isn't worth the cost. The Bloc is claiming that they're outraged by the ArriveCan scandal, but they voted in favour of cost overruns to fund ArriveCan 8 times. And now they're defending themselves by saying, and I quote, "Look, we're not going to scrutinise every single nickel the government spends. Our message to the government is, go ahead, spend the money, Mr. Speaker." End of quote. Voting Bloc is expensive. Even the Premier of Quebec has been wondering what the Bloc is for. And that's saying something, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ArriveCan is an application that's cost an arm and a leg. It's made a company rich and made things harder for all Canadians. ArriveCan just joins it's another in a long list of bad decisions, mismanagement, lack of ethics, and a lack of transparency from this worn-out government. While the Liberals mock Canadians, common-sense Conservatives continue to fight to defend their interests. We will cut taxes, build new homes, fix the budget, and stop crime, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis because I called her name a little bit earlier.
St. John's East. Member from St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, tourism in my province of Newfoundland and Labrador exceeds $1 billion in annual expenditures, fueling employment prosperity across all communities. It embodies our identity, traditions, and the stunning natural wonders around us. Moreover, tourism fosters environmental stewardship, preserving our ecological treasures for future generations. This past week, alongside the Minister of Tourism and the Minister responsible for Atlantic Canada's Opportunity Agency and Rural Economic Development, we attended the 2024 Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador Conference. Together, we celebrated the economic success of the province's tourism industry and its profound impact on our cultural vibrancy and environmental well-being. Thank you to the event organizers. Let's continue to welcome visitors worldwide to experience Newfoundland and Labrador's magic and be part of its legacy. Good job.
The honourable member from Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, in celebrating Black History Month, we honour Black Canadians' rich heritage and achievements. We spotlight individuals like Rosemary Sadler, an advocate for Black history and women's issue, and Dr. Jeffrey K.O. Thompson, a leader in technology and community services. Their contribution enrich our nation's tapestry. From Richmond Hill, we recognize Anil Sawartstra, Marshall Simon Cordon, and Pamela Herrick for their local impacts. Anil leadership in community initiative, Pamela in philanthropy, and Marshall's legal IP leadership exemplify the spirit of Black excellence we celebrate this month. To thank Richmond Hill contributors, we've invited local stakeholders to Black Caucus networking event. This gathering is a testament to our collective efforts toward inclusivity and recognition of Blacks' excellence. As we continue to combat anti-Black racism, let's support Black communities and entrepreneurship, working toward a just and equitable future for all of us. Happy Black History Month, here building a better future for everyone. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bravo.
Happy Black History Month.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, with the Arrive scam scandal, I can announce today that the Bloc Québécois leader has reached a new low. The leader of the Bloc openly admitted to giving it the green light without even having looked at the estimates for 2021-2022, saying, and I quote, "We're not going to scrutinize every single nickel the government spends. Our message to the government is, go ahead and spend the money." When the Liberal government didn't have the votes they needed to fund ArriveCan, the Bloc leader rode into the rescue. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, the Bloc voted 8 times to give the government the millions of dollars they needed to fund this scam. Now everyone knows it. The Bloc is happy to spend Quebecers' hard-earned money with eyes wide shut. And yet, Mr. Speaker, they think they'd be able to manage a country. I can't tell you what the Bloc is for, Mr. Speaker, but I can tell you that voting for the Bloc costs a lot of money for Quebecers.
The Honourable Member from Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, we continue to see unbelievable hypocrisy from the leader of the NDP. Yet again, he is pretending to be outraged by the actions of his Liberal coalition partner while expecting Canadians to ignore the fact that he is the Prime Minister's chief enabler. The NDP say they are angered by the waste and corruption behind the ArriveScan app, yet it never would have happened without their support. The Prime Minister needed his coalition cohort to have enough votes to get the money through Parliament. And the leader of the NDP was more than happy to vote yes at least 8 times to give tens of millions for cost overruns and money-for-nothing contracts to shell companies. Clearly, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost, crime, or corruption. Their disregard for taxpayer money is appallingly consistent, and the leader of the NDP should be ashamed for not admitting his role in the spoondoggle, and apologize to Canadians for grandstanding on social.
The Honourable Member for Orleans. Mr. Speaker, on February 12th, I had the privilege of visiting a class of grade 5 and 6 students at Maple Ridge French Immersion Elementary School in Orleans with the Minister of Veterans Affairs as part of the Valentine's program. It was really touching to meet and talk with the students who participated in the Valentine's for Vets program. They did so by making Valentine's Day cards for veterans. It was an opportunity for them to send a special message to our veterans, thanking them for their service and thanking them for what they've done and sacrificed for our freedom. I'd like to thank their teacher, Sophie Labrosse, and the school principal, Mireille Filion, for their welcome and for their interest in participating in this program, which has been running since 1996. It's a program that helps ensure that our young people never forget. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member from Timmins, James Bay.
We are on the 12th anniversary of Parliament passing Shannon's Dream motion, the motion that was named in honour of the young Cree leader Shannon Coustashian, who stood up to challenge the systemic denial of rights of Indigenous children. Shannon had never seen a real school. Children in Attawapiskat were being educated in squalid and dangerous conditions. The government knew this, they just didn't give a damn. And then 13-year-old Shannon launched the largest youth-driven civil rights movement in Canadian history. Shannon never lived long enough to see the beautiful school that was built because of her work. She died in a horrific car accident at 15. But following her death, youth, activists, and educators from across Canada launched Shannon's Dream to end the systemic underfunding of First Nation schools. We have so much farther to go. Children at Ibamatung have no school right now. Children in Saskatchewan have no proper gym. Shannon reminded us the greatest resource in this country isn't oil or diamonds. It is in the potential of this young generation.